G'day to all my friends and family, and welcome to Jim's 5am Club. And I'm just out here, gone on a bit of a bushwalk. It stopped raining just for a little while, and I've been dying to come out here all week just to see the impact of the heavy rains. And as you can see, the pathway here has been overrun by water, so it would take a little bit of courage to step across those rocks there to get to the other side, but I'm not going to do it because it's not worth the risk of falling in and getting wet. So I'll head back the direction that I came in. Anyway, I thought I'd come out and get out of the house and deliver another 5am Club. So bear with me, and today's topic is a different topic, but from a very, very famous author. The author is Nassim Taleb, and the book that he's written is a very interesting book with some very interesting truths in there. And the book is entitled Skin in the Game. Skin in the Game. And I guess one of the biggest lessons that I've learnt over the years is that and I'll just turn this camera around. There you go. One of the biggest lessons that I've learnt over the years is that the ones who have the greatest impact, the ones who make the boldest gains in life, are the ones who have the most skin in the game. And the examples are, looking back over the years, the ancient Greeks in the Battle of Marathon, or the Battle of Salamis, or the Battle of Thermopylae. Now, they're examples where the Greeks were tremendously outnumbered by their Persian enemies. But because the Greeks were defending their land, because the Greeks had the most to lose, because the Greeks were fighting for something over and above themselves. They were fighting for their families, they were fighting for their loved ones, they were fighting for the future of their country. They weren't mercenaries. They were the people who had the most to lose, and hence when they went into battle, they battled with the ferocity of a tiger that was cornered and made the most of that opportunity. And as we saw, the results, the outcomes have been recorded over history to show the importance of having your back up against the wall. And by having your back up against the wall, you have the greatest amount of energy, and the greatest amount of ferocity, and the greatest amount of purpose to fight for. Anyway, in this book here, the author talks about a few things, and the first point that he makes and he talks about is the importance of understanding the abundance and the impact of hidden asymmetries. Asymmetries in information, asymmetries in purpose. So it basically means the opposites. So whenever we're in a negotiating position, a negotiation, I've got my agenda, I've got my position, and you have your agenda and your position. But it's really, really important to be able to understand. Let me put this umbrella down, just get a bit more light. It's pretty important actually to understand the asymmetries of information that appear and are available, so that you understand where the other person is coming from, what their advantages are, so that you can try and counter those advantages or use those advantages to help your case. So these are called asymmetries of information. And sometimes other people have much more information than what we have, and are in a better position to make better quality decisions. It happens at auctions, it happens in property transactions, it happens at job interviews, you name it. Or it happens in contract negotiations. There are people who know things that influence how tough and how hard they go after what they go after. But the big asymmetries are found in consumption behaviour in society, is what the author talks about, because those with a skin or more skin in the game can win even if the odds are stacked against them. And it's called minority rule. And it's only over the past decade that we've seen the minorities taking the dog by the tail and just swinging it about and making some big impacts from a political perspective by changing a number of rules, a number of laws, and basically changing the whole agenda of the society that we live in. And it's called, it comes by various names, but I guess the best way of looking at it is it's identity politics, where minority groups are able to muscle the majority, because the majority is lethargic, the majority is not united, and the majority is basically just fat, dumb and lazy, and they don't see the impacts that their lack of commitment and their lack of getting involved will have on them in the long run. So modern examples of how asymmetry in power works, and how a minority is able to work the majority. In the UK, for example, 70% of the lamb imports to the UK are halal, whereas only 4% of the population is Muslim. So how does 4% of the population influence 96%, 94%, or 96%, that's right, 96% of the population in terms of getting an import of meat into their country? And the reason for it, it's an interesting reason, the reason for it is that the majority is flexible on certain things. They're flexible and indifferent, because non-Muslims don't mind eating halal meat, as there's no difference in taste, and usually there's no difference in price. So if there was a difference in price, if it was more expensive, then you may get some pushback. But because there are no differences, there's no significant differences, then there's no pushback, there's no change, and all of a sudden all of the meat, or the majority of the meat, comes through with a halal brand on it. And it's where the majority doesn't care that the minority gets what it wants. And this is a bloody powerful lesson for each and every one of us. Because what we all need to do in our jobs, in our families, in our religions, in everything we do, we need to maintain the hustle. We just need to hustle and hustle and hustle and just push and squeal, because in the majority of cases, it's the small vocal minority that is able to get their views listened to and actioned, because the majority, as we said before, are indifferent on many things. So you need to be organised, you need to be planned, you need to have strategy and tactics in place. And a lot of these groups have just that happening all the time. When I worked for a large law firm, a large, high-profile, prestigious law firm, they were working in conjunction and in parallel with the LGTBI, alphabet, whatever, groups. So you had some very, very smart people working in parallel with a minority. And the same thing happens with the Indigenous community, the same thing happens with the climate change, and all of the movements that are happening have some very, very smart people with them who are identifying opportunities, and they're basically working with these small groups using social media as a platform to basically get the message out, to shut down the majority. Anybody in the majority who wants to pop up their head and talk will get shut down very, very quickly through cancel culture. And a lot of these movements rely on the stealth activities and the smart workings of a small number of people who are able to, as I said before, just get out a lot of information, even if it's misinformation. You see this all the time with the anti-vaxxers. You see it all the time with the 5G bullies. You see it all the time with all these different movements. All these different movements are very, very good, are very, very powerful at putting out information which confuses the people, because it's changing all the time. You know, all you have to do is just say something, and very, very few people have the research abilities all the time to be able to go into it and check it out to see if it's true or false. And hence we've got a whole culture of fake news and fake research and fake data that is doing the rounds and shaping public opinion in ways that we've never ever seen done before. I'll just pop up the umbrella so I don't get water on the camera and on the notes. So that's the first major point to come out of this author's book. And as you can see, it's a powerful message, and a message to each and every one of us, a message that we need to talk to our children about, to make them understand that by being silent, even if you're a majority, by being silent, then you become a target, because there are people out there who just love silent majorities, because they can prey on them and they can just pick them off one at a time by stealth operations, where they make the most of the lack of organisation and the lack of agency that the majority has on a number of issues and things. So the next point that I'd like to make from this book is that it says here that successful people don't always need to be competent. Let me just go down here by the water's edge. Successful people don't always need to be competent, because competency is based on the particular industry that you're in and the people who support you. So, and it all depends. It all depends on the group and the industry, because there are industries out there like the legal profession, whereas if you have a proven record and your reputation precedes you, then you don't have to worry about how you dress, how you behave and how you act, because you've got your reputation which goes before you, and people just respond and respect the reputation that you've been able to establish. And yet there are other jobs, there are other professions, there are other industries like politics, banking, which other ones? CEOs, for example, politicians and bankers. They have jobs where they constantly need to be perceived as if they're doing a competent job and that they're capable. So it's more about perception. So just to understand that different industries, different groups have different definitions of success And you need to understand, I guess, is the important lesson to come out of the book. We need to be able to tap into and understand the DNA and the rules of engagement and how it all works in each particular group, so that you can be able to figure out how things happen. Anyway, I'm just coming down here, so just bear with me so I don't slip into the water. Whilst I'm down here, I've got to tell you that years ago, when it used to rain, and it's rained a lot over the past few days, but years ago, when it used to rain down here, it used to flood the whole area, and this whole valley would get flooded all the way up to the streets, and the houses would get flooded. And yet, even though there's been a lot of rain lately, it hasn't been as bad as the past. So once again, another lesson from Jim's 5am Club to all those climate change bullies, that Australia is an arid land of drought, but occasionally we get periods of flood, and then we'll go back to drought, flood, drought. And the other message I want to say is we're also having a mice plague in the Midwest of New South Wales, where there are billions of mice just ravaging fields of sorghum, of whatever they plant, just gets ravaged by these billions of mice. And just the other day, I was just doing a bit of research, and I learnt that 2 mice or 2 rats, they sexually mature at the age of 9 weeks. And what this means is that 2 mice or 2 rats in 1 year can multiply to, I think, 1,600. So it just goes to show the power of nature to be able to regenerate itself when you get some rain. So let's just move back onto the book here. So I just went onto a bit of a tangent just because don't know why, but hopefully we learned something new there as well. But when we look at the power of what we were saying before, let me just turn the page and have a look. The power of, bear with me, the power of the information asymmetry. When we're looking at the power of information symmetry, it's important to understand that it happens in our transactions, whenever we transact with somebody all the time socially, because we need to be able to we need to be able to look at the risk reward in each of those transactions. So when we come together with friends and family, there is always something to gain and something to lose whenever we transact. And the best thing you can always do is to sit and ask yourself, what have we got to gain and what has the other person got to lose? And there are people who have a lot to gain, and others within the transaction have little to lose. And this is where the scams happen, where the person who has the most to gain is the one who works really, really hard at convincing the other to buy something, to give up something, or whatever. But always ask yourself, whenever you're dealing with other people, what do I have to lose? What do they have to gain? And even if you have a little to lose, always be on the guard and to look at that asymmetry of gain and loss, the risk reward, and to protect yourself, protect your assets, because every loss that you have in your life, regardless of how small it is going to impact you in some way, shape or form, because it has a compound effect. One loss weakens you a little bit. Another loss weakens you more. And sooner or later, these losses compound upon the other, and they build. They build up until they get to the point where you've made some significant lossing ground, from a relationship perspective, from a social perspective, from a career perspective. So we just need to keep on fighting. We need to keep on fighting and to keep on pushing forward to make the most of what we can. So let me just turn the camera, just talking about pushing forward, because I thought I saw something here in the water. So let me just go over here and have a look. And wow, there we go. On the water down there, they are mosquitoes or some sort of spiders just walking on the surface, just trying to make their way and to stay in a particular little ebbing area here of the creek. So I think I'll leave it there, ladies and gents. So thank you very much for joining me on Jim's 5 a.m. Club on this interesting day. I'll show this to my granddaughter because we come down here all the time for a bushwalk, and I think she'll love to see the water running, because it's a lot stiller here normally, and it's a great opportunity to see nature at its finest. And as I said, there are other times or other years that this whole area would have been flooded and would have been well over my head, much well over my head. So let's finish off with a positive affirmation. I'm alive, I am well, and I feel absolutely great. To my friends and family, stay connected, stay relevant, stay reasonable. And most importantly, let's take some hacks, some life hacks out of this book, and understand that there are asymmetries of power, there are asymmetries of information that are constantly working in every interaction that we have, and to ask ourselves the question, what have we got to lose? What have we got to gain? What have the others got to lose and to gain? And to be able to assess how you stand in the interaction, and to use that to leverage your position to make the most of the strong or the weak position that you're in, and to convince yourself to hustle wherever you can, because the squeakiest wheel always gets the oil. Remember that. Teach your children that. Teach everybody that you know that you need to squeal. You need to ask for things all the time. Push forward, push hard, because it's a net sum game. If you're not gaining, you're losing. So make sure that you're not giving up on the things that are your birthright, the things that are important in terms of how you define yourself, how you define your culture, how you define your family, because winning is I guess it's a birthright. Now, it's part of our birthright. We need to continue to keep on pushing. We need to continue to win, and to in order to maintain our status quo. Else, we trade places with those who play the game better than what we do. So I think that's about it. Let me just go a little bit further, because there's a little brook which crosses the track down here. And the other thing which is interesting for people to understand is that a lot of tracks and trails that we follow and find are natural water courses, where the water runs down from the high point to the low point, and it forms a natural sort of trail. And as you can see here, the water is running down this walking trail, and it'll just filter through here into another little creek, which goes back down there into the bigger creek, as you can see here. So thank you once again, ladies and gents, for joining me on Jim's 5 a.m. Club, and I look forward to coming to you again from a different location with a different message, a message of empowerment, where we learn something new, and we learn how to live, learn and pass it on, and hopefully the lessons that we pick up can help us grow and develop and be the wind beneath our wings. And we'll chat again. Take care and enjoy the rest of this most beautiful, beautiful Sunday. Yassas and bye for now.